Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Pisgah Podcast.
We are your hosts. I'm Drew. That's Mangler. You're listening to Pisgah, and we're coming to you live from the bike wash station at Sycamore Cycles.
This is my favorite place to wash my bike.
Good place to get your toes wet.
Yeah.
Man, you've been on the road. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so made a quick road trip across the country, and with the inspiration of hearing of Free Hub Magazine's newer photo book of Northwest Oregon, it kind of made me want to do a trip out there. And my girlfriend Jessica had a week off of work for vacation, so I drove the rig across the country, and we kind of posted up in Northwest Oregon for some late spring riding. And if you're unfamiliar with that area, it's a coastal region that can get some crazy weather, and the higher elevations do have snow and can get more snow, which we experienced both. Some highlights of some spots that we hung out at, Ashland, Oregon, which is like right on the California border. When the shuttle company dropped us off at the top, it was 34 degrees and snowing. But after we dropped down, probably the first mile or so, the snow, we got below like the current snow, and we were greeted with like this beautiful ribbon of brown dirt with snow on the sides of the trail, and it was absolutely gorgeous and amazing dirt. And then we spent a good amount of time in Oak Ridge, Oregon, which, I mean, if you haven't heard of Oak Ridge yet, get ready, because it's probably going to be a pretty popular destination, as the Trans-Cascadia excursion guys are located there. There's Cog Wild. There's a really rad mercantile bike shop there. It's a popular place for doing shuttles, as most of the trails come from the tops of ridges. So unfortunately, you don't have like a lot of easy pedal loops from the bottom. I mean, because we're talking like 4,000 foot descents and stuff. So, that's not a bad time, but it hurts pedaling to the top of those. So usually what we did for a couple of days in Oak Ridge is we would do a shuttle in the morning, and then we would do a pedal loop in the afternoon of one of like the shorter rides, so to speak. So, still climbing probably close to 3,000 feet, but getting just like super awesome descents. Oak Ridge does get super dry in the summertime, so it can get kind of moon dusty. So to have those trails running in the condition that they were running while we were there was pretty awesome. And then we hit up some like Hood River area stuff. Those trails are running really good. Usually that whole zone gets super dry, but we were kind of running from rain a little bit during the trip as well. But eventually Jessica had to come back home, so dropped her off at the airport, and then I hung around for a few more days to hang out with a longtime BMX homie, Ryan Barrett. He works at River City Cycles up there, and usually about once a year I'll clock in a couple of days there in Portland with him, and we're riding a couple of different zones. So he unlocked a couple of new spots for me. We had great weather, and then pretty much I flew back a couple of days ago, and every day since I've left it's been in like the mid 90s up there. So I kind of ran away from the hot weather and then back into the humid rainforest jungle of western North Carolina. So I think I clocked in around 15 days straight of riding. So my legs are pretty tired, and today when we went and rode up Avery Creek Road to do Club to Avery, my legs were feeling it for some reason. Maybe it's humidity, maybe it's the lack of rest I've had, but Pisgah welcomed me home and gave me a nice little wake up. So good solid trip, good to be back home for a little bit. And so that was kind of the trip in a nutshell. Got a couple of irons in the fires for a couple of future episodes based on some characters in that area. So as always, stay tuned to the Pisgah Podcast for some good content. But yeah, it was a good time. It's funny that, we were up there running from rain occasionally, and then we checked the weather back home, and it looks like it was pretty Class A riding here over the past, week and a half or so. So, what about you? Did you get much riding in?
Well, I finally, post injury, got my first ride in this past weekend. My lovely and long suffering wife finally talked me into it, and much to my surprise, I felt good. My shoulder didn't bother me at all, and yeah, it was nice to feel it and see what I was capable of. And I think I don't have the new bike yet, but I'm gonna be riding up until it gets here, kind of in a reserved fashion, and kind of ease myself back into it. I'm pretty excited.
Speaking of new bike, this week we kind of had a lot of new bikes dumped on us, which is kind of surprising given, a lot of the the global crisis of various bike parts. Do any of these stand out of interest to you?
The new transition is a long travel 29er. I've been interested in long travel bikes for a very long time, but
That's the Spire.
yeah, and the fit for me for a 29er is precarious. So I've always liked a 29er for a hardtail or a cross country bike, but I've yet to see a long travel one that excited me enough to want to ride it. I've had the luck of riding things like a Mega Tower or a Trek Slash, but still feel too planted between two wheels instead of on top of the bike. But the Spire is one that looks pretty interesting to me. They're released, but they're still not going to be available till the end of the summer. So we,
And the Spire is a 170. That is a monster truck of a trail bike.
yeah, yeah.
And it's that headset angle on it, that's like downhill bike territory.
Slacker than a lot of downhill bikes, as a matter of fact.
Wow. Yeah. So if you live in a zone where you have a bike park and you occasionally like to pedal trails, that's definitely a good bike for that.
I think it's a good fit for somebody who perhaps maybe has a downhill bike that doesn't get enough love and a trail bike that they ride a lot, but maybe they want to consolidate those two into one, which is kind of what I'm doing with my current bike build situation. Is I got rid of my downhill bike and I have a trail bike, but ultimately I'm going with a bigger trail bike so I can open up the quiver to have a more long distance riding friendly 120 to 130 travel 29er in the quiver as well.
Nice. Yeah. Speaking of like, the shorter travel bikes, Santa Cruz released the new Blur, which a lot of the short travel XC specific targeted bikes have gone with removing a pivot from the rear stays and going with like a flex stay, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and that technology's been around since Gary Fisher introduced the Sugar back in the early 2000s, and I've always had hope in the flex stay technology, but I think we're finally at a point where, with kinematics of the frame and the geometry of a frame, we can allow for it to work well and work for a long time. I think that's the problem with a lot of flex stays, is that in the past was that they would fatigue prematurely.
Yeah, like the material fatigue over time and how it plays into effect.
Mm-hmm.
And then YT released core versions of the Izzo, which is the bike that I have, which was pretty interesting to see, for them to offer an aluminum version of that and also offer it, sans remote lockout on the rear shock. I think I saw some rumors of them coming with 180 mil rotors, which would be really nice, especially for riding that bike around these terrains.
Yeah, I think that ultimately that's the rider's bike. They cut out the middleman by being a direct-to-consumer brand, which I know is looked down upon by a lot of people, especially coming from the retail bicycle world. But as far as brands that are doing this and doing it correctly, I think that we can at least applaud them for not being a brand like, say, Fazari, where it's cheaped out in a lot of ways. And they also cut the fat, in places necessary, and they do legitimately pass the savings on to the consumer. And it's a good affordable bike. You get a lot of bike for your money when you buy one of those, and they come with solid engineering and solid warranty.
I've put my Izzo through the paces. I've had it since, I believe, June. Yeah, June of 2020. It's covered a lot of places in the U.S. over the past year, so I've definitely enjoyed riding it. I definitely did sauce it up a little bit, but it goes.
Yeah, I think that as far as direct to consumer brands like this go, Canyon and YT stand out head and shoulders above the rest as far as putting out a quality product, still supporting the community and the racing community, and just having something awesome out there for people that need the most bang for their buck,
Oh,
and
yeah,
maybe
definitely.
don't have access to a local bike shop.
That's true. We have to remember that not everyone lives in a place that has such awesome shops as we do. We can drive, 20 minutes in any direction and pretty much hit a bike shop that carries most major common brands of mountain bikes.
Hmm.
Another interesting release that I was kind of surprised by was Rafa's mountain bike line.
Yeah, for sure. I've kind of known that they were developing a mountain bike line for a while. Their product manager is actually a former Asheville resident, and he'd moved away to Portland to work for Rafa a while back, and heard through the grapevine and through mutual friends of ours that he'd been developing a mountain bike line and had moved to Bentonville. So, I wasn't surprised to see it when it came out, but what I was surprised to see was that they're working on things like using recyclable materials. And honestly, I expected the prices to be a lot higher. They're very much in lockstep with any other premium mountain bike apparel brand. Not to say it's necessarily cheap or affordable, but it's not above what the watermark is for similar garments from premium brands.
Yeah, and not only is it, a premium brand using recycled materials, but it's cool that they include adhesive patches so that if you do rip your garment, you have some simple repair that you can do at home. And they offer a program where if you do tear the garment in a way that you can't repair it with a patch, send it in and they'll fix it for you.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it really is a good model, and I hope that other high-end brands kind of pay attention to what they're doing there, and I hope it works out. Yeah, I hope that other people benchmark it and pay attention, and I hope it works out well.
Yeah, I think Patagonia offers a similar style service, but I don't know to what level. I've never had to use it before.
I've sent garments and also a backpack back to Patagonia for repair, and the garment was repaired, and the backpack was they denied it because it would not return to their quality standards.
Oh, okay, interesting. Was there a charge for the repair on the garment?
No, well, I had to pay for shipping there, and they actually did the repair and they shipped it back to me for free. And then the return for the backpack that I sent was also they sent that back, no charge.
That's pretty awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we didn't get a chance to catch up with the This Is Rome crew while they were in town a couple of weeks ago, but I coerced them into a remote interview from their home in Grand Junction. If you're not familiar with This Is Rome, they host a few women's only events around the country every year that usually brings out a huge amount of participants. But they've switched things up a little for 2021, and so we got them on the horn to find out what's going on.
Man, this is great. I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah. All right, we got to start this party off right.
Yeah, that limoncello has a very distinct bubbling.
You know your LaCroix sounds very well, Andy. Yeah, like the snap of the can, the sound of the bubbles. You know it if you're a frequent LaCroix taster.
Totally.
It's true.
Well, sweet. Thank you guys for joining us here on the Pisgah Podcast. I've been blessed by your presence on a previous podcast, so thank you again for joining me.
Yeah.
The blessing was ours.
Yeah. And I told Andy I'm going to try not to drop so many F-bombs this time.
We're adults here.
Okay. I'll limit it to like 3 maybe then. Good luck.
Okay. All right, so we got the F-bomb counter going. So you guys just wrapped up a very cool tour. So first off, tell us a little bit about what your little mini tour was about.
Yeah. Well, we'll start with this is Ash and this is what my voice sounds like.
This is Andy.
That is not what your voice normally sounds
This
like.
is
Talk
Andy.
normal.
This is Andy.
Yeah, and we shook some things up in 2021 and we kicked off a new tour series called the Rome Rally Demo Tour. We've done about 5 events and it's a 1-day women's mountain bike tour where we showcase some demo bikes from Specialized and a few other brand partners. And we just go out and we ride bikes and we go have lunch and we drink beers and we talk about bikes. And there's a lot of high fives and hugs these days now that everything's opening up. So we're really happy to be back.
How does this mostly differ from your previous events?
Well, prior to this year, we did our flagship event series mostly, which was the Rome Retreat series, which are 3-day overnight mountain bike parties for ladies, and we did co-ed ones as well. We decided not to do any overnight events this year, just to simplify things and keep it.
Because nobody could plan anything. Planning was crazy.
Yeah.
We were just like, screw it. We're going to do one-day events with really awesome bike shops.
How did you kick off the event? Like, tell me about each of your stops.
Yeah, so our first event was actually here at home in the Grand Valley. We hosted the event in Fruita, Colorado. We basically had the shreddiest crew I think we've ever had show up to an event. It was really fun. A ton of local ladies showed up to help lead rides. We ended up doing like this amoeba group ride with 12 ladies, and I kept being like, you guys, we need to split up. Like, why is the group not split up?
We were trying.
And they were trying, but they were all just like on the same level, and they were all super shreddy. And it was a ton of fun. And then we went back, and as you do when you're in Fruita, Colorado, you have hot tomato pizza. So we stuffed our faces full of like ungodly amounts of hot tomato pizza and some Sierra Nevada beer and other beverages. Yeah, and we basically, it's kind of on repeat, right? The same thing happens at each event. There's a little special local spice that we bring to each location. But yeah, ride bikes, have food, drink beer, hang out, talk about bikes after. So we did that in Fruita, and then we drove all the way down to Bentonville, Arkansas. Had another amazing showing. What's been really surprising is we intended the event to be really for locals, kind of making it a one-day event, having it at a $50 price point. Hopefully that's like a good incentive to have a full day of demo bikes and lunch included, and a really awesome tech talk with pro mechanics. So we thought that would totally appeal to local riders, and locals are definitely signing up, but they're on the wait list because the event sold out in like 12 hours.
Yeah.
We released 7 tour stops, and within 12 hours all of them had sold out.
Yeah, I went to check out the one for here, and I was going to just like throw Jessica in on the mix, and I was like, I texted you, I was like,
yeah,
have you not opened up tickets yet?
No.
Like, what's the deal? And you're like,
we
it's
just
sold out already.
We sold out really quickly. So it's been pretty cool. A bit of a surprise to have ladies traveling in. So when we were in Arkansas, we had a lot of ladies coming in from Oklahoma and eastern or southern Arkansas coming out to Bentonville, which I guess that speaks to the fact that the locations and destinations we're doing the tour at are, ride destinations. They're on people's bucket lists. The idea of coming and like shredding with a bunch of ladies and essentially having a guided ride, I think, is really appealing. So we did that event in Arkansas. Andy was actually not there for our first event. You could tell them what you were doing because that was fun.
Andy.
I know.
It's like the first event
you've
you
ever
ever really missed since you became Rome
totally,
full-time.
100%. I was wrenching for a pro women's XC team up in Salt Lake City for a UCI
awesome.
race. Yeah, it was super awesome.
So you got to get back into the wrench game a little bit.
Yeah, it was super fun. I was so happy to be able to do it. It was sad to miss one of our events, but
we had such awesome support.
Yeah, we had really
that's what I have to say about every stop. Like, we have been not overwhelmed. We've been overjoyed by the amount of local ladies just willing to step up and help out, and even like local guys, the fellows that work at the bike shop or who are partners with the ladies who are coming to help out. It's been really incredible the amount of support that we've had at each tour. To kind of fast forward, we started in Arkansas. We popped over to Knoxville, Tennessee. In between, we rode in Ironton, Missouri, which I definitely think everyone should take the trip to go ride those trails.
I made a pit stop 2 weeks ago.
Right? Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Knoxville was really incredible. It was actually our first time there, and we were not only just impressed with the trails, but just the whole bike culture there, and the city in general is just, it's a really awesome city. We kind of went in with no expectations and we're pretty blown away, and definitely plan on going back to Knoxville. And then, we headed out to Brevard, North Carolina, obviously one of our favorite places on this earth to go ride bikes, and had another absolutely amazing event with a pretty good crew of ladies. Again, had just an amazing group of locals show up. We hosted the event with Sycamore Cycles, and they just went above and beyond to just make sure we had absolutely everything we needed. And it was such a smooth, easy, fun event because of that support just from the locals and from the bike shop. It just speaks volumes, really, to just this bike community. It's pretty amazing. We're always humbled by it. And then we kind of took our own trip home to the long way around. We went to Anniston, Alabama, and rode.
Good spot.
Yeah, I was so
Surprising.
surprised. We had
Oh
an
my God.
amazing stop in Athens, Georgia. That was not expected. We were supposed to just be there for a few hours. We stayed for a few days with some really wonderful people.
You guys
And-
hooked up with Terry and
yeah,
Hooker, right?
Terry Watts.
Yeah.
Yeah, we rode with those guys. They hooked us up with some Love is Love Terrapin beer, which we really appreciate. Just in time for Pride Month.
Just in time.
Yeah, and we've been back home. We'll be here kind of collectively for about a month, and then we're hitting the road to do the same thing again in the Pacific Northwest.
That is so awesome to hear. So talk to me a little bit about how one of these stops, what your events like go on throughout the day. Like what happened at Sycamore? Run me through the day.
We start around 9. Everyone shows up. We get everyone set up on their demo bikes and do introductions. Everyone makes their snack bag. We have these really great DIY Gorp
It's
snack
like
bags.
everyone's favorite thing,
Yeah,
I think.
it is. You get to choose from like 7 or 8 different things and make your own trail mix. Anyway,
That's all
You
our-
guys always kill it with like the snack stuff.
Yeah, well, we have like 3 really simple rules with our events. It's that the music doesn't stop, which is basically just a vibe thing. That's kind of a stand-in for just like make sure the vibe is vibing. That people aren't hungry, and that we don't run out of drinks. And if you do, and that applies to literally any event, like weddings, birthday parties, barbecues, conferences, you name it. As long as there's like something to drink, something to eat, and people are having a good time, you really can't go wrong with an event.
yeah.
We try to crush it at food.
So you get everyone dialed in on snacks there at Sycamore, and then kind of what happens?
And then we pretty much just head out on the ride.
Most people are demoing.
Most people are demoing. We have a specialized stump jumper demo fleet and enduros. Most people are demoing. And we go out and ride for 2 or 3 hours, and
We split into groups.
we do. Yeah. Based on like the ability levels and the skill levels and the fitness levels of everybody who signs up, we assign groups. And we actually, in Brevard, we went on 2 completely separate rides, or 3 actually, 3 completely separate rides. We just want to make sure everybody's getting the most out of their ride. And we come back and we chill for a bit, and hopefully lunch is ready right when we get there, and it so
Which it
far has been.
So far, so good. We get lunch catered, so it's kind of questionable sometimes.
And we have beer and bubbly waters, and dive into a tech talk. At some of our events, we split into 2 tech talks, like a more beginner one and then a more advanced one, depending again on who's there and who wants what. And then we chill for a little longer and
People go
get to
home
know
with
each other
their
and
T-shirts and their water bottles and all their swag, and hopefully some new friends.
usually always new friends.
Always new friends.
Yeah.
You said you broke up into 3 groups. Who are the ride leaders, and kind of what zones did you guys fan out into?
So for Brevard, our ride leaders were me and Ash, Bernadette Merriman, Hannah Finchamp, Nicole. I don't know her last name. We had just met her. She was
goes by
rad.
Nick.
Nick.
She's a local Specialized ambassador.
Yeah, she was super rad.
You put us on the spot.
Put us on
we
the
should
spot.
have known this, I'm sure. Well, Shanna Powell showed up.
Shanna Powell did
like
show
a
up.
boss.
Yeah.
Even though she had like 6 other events to go to because she's
So
Shanna Powell.
awesome.
And she showed up in the morning and just helped us get folks like set up on demo bikes and make sure that people's like tire pressure was good and their sag was good and everything.
She was the reason that lunch happened.
Yeah, she stayed back because the lunch place wasn't open yet for us to get our order in. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so she came through solidly.
MVP of the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. Like the event, I don't know. Lunch, I don't know that lunch would have happened.
One of the 3 rules.
Yeah,
like,
one of the 3
people
rules
can't
would
be
not
hungry.
have been met.
Sienna, our friend Sienna, who was actually traveling with us for this whole month-long Southeast trip. She was just a rock star, amazing everything, ride leader, everything.
I mean,
rock
that's
star.
Sienna. She's just
Definitely.
rock star.
Right?
Yeah.
It's her middle name, I'm pretty sure.
And what was really, I hope we might have missed somebody. I don't think that we did, but I mean, Charisma Abergas helped us with a lot of the planning. She wasn't able to make it the day of. And Liz Cook also showed up and wasn't able to ride, but was a huge help during our tech tops. Just, I mean, she's so knowledgeable about so many things, not specific just to bikes,
Mechanics,
but
like body
but like body
mechanics and
mechanics
fit
and-
on
yeah.
the bike. She was blowing our minds.
She was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And so we broke up into 3 groups. I headed to DuPont with Sienna, and we just had, there was 4 of us. We had 2 ladies, or 5 of us. There's 2 ladies that were literally, I think one of them had never mountain biked before, which is really unusual at our events.
Yeah,
we
because usually
kind
you
of,
guys are.
yeah, we catered to a more experienced bike crowd, and that was something that we made a very conscious decision for the Rome rallies to kind of be more welcoming to those newer riders and to accommodate newer riders, which is something that we're loving, and we're kind of just taking notes on, because we're always evolving and always looking at how we can do better, and just seeing like what community in, you know, the larger mountain bike community we can be serving best with what we do and our style. So it's been an interesting experience. I don't know if we'll continue to cater to newer riders, just because there's so many amazing experiences out there, clinics and group rides, and there's so much programming around bringing, you know, new women, new mountain bikers into the fold. So we've been doing it. We're going to continue to do it this year, and then we're going to kind of just assess and see if it's something that we want to, you know, keep hammering at. But the ladies that were new, I just threw them in the freaking deep end, man. Like, I probably should not have been taking them on some of the trails that we were going on, but they had great attitudes. They were having a super fun time. We ended up doing Burnt Mountain and just kind of going up to the high point and turning around and coming back down.
That's a good setup.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, and there was like some rock rolling that they were attempting and doing, and we sessioned a few things. That is something that's a little different about these rides than what traditionally has happened in the past at our Rome retreats. Those are more like, we are literally here to just ride our faces off. At these Rome rallies, it's a bit more of a, hey, like, we're here to come away with some new skills maybe, or just some inspiration, or just some new beta. So there is a bit more, you know, stopping potentially, and checking things out, sessioning. Not a ton, but it does happen. And then Andy went off.
So I took one of our beginner-mediate riders on just a thrift to Grassy to Sycamore loop.
Okay.
And Bernadette's ride, man, they were some shredders.
Dude.
They did black. They did up thrift, down black, and then they were just going to do Sycamore, but they had time, so they did like a half Sycamore where you cut in there before the rock waterfall thing.
Yep.
And then they
Stearns,
went
where you shoot up Stearns.
Stearns, yeah. And then they went all the way back up to Sycamore and did the full Sycamore. And one of our ladies who came said in her survey that it was the best group ride she had ever been on.
Yeah, which I have to give credit to, like,
Bernadette and
Bernadette,
Hannah.
the trail builders. Like, you can't really get those comments unless all the magic is happening. And, like, you know, we're just jumping into a situation that's already pretty sparkly and awesome, you know, with those locals there to help us out. And so to get feedback like that just is absolutely incredible for us. And we're super grateful that those people are having that good of a time, but just for all the people involved behind the scenes and on the day that make that experience happen. Cause that's like literally what we're here to do.
And probably one of the most important key features that helped your day to be a major success was you had good weather.
Oh yeah, I know. It didn't
Perfect
rain.
weather. I think it was 70
We're like
degrees.
tacky hero dirt.
Oh my gosh.
And 70 degrees.
That's
and
definitely huge.
no raining.
Thank you, Mother Nature.
Yeah, which we've done events in just about we've been snowed on, we've been riding in moon dust, we've done just about everything. And we always do have a good time, but you're absolutely right that, sometimes you just hit gold with the trail conditions and the weather. And we definitely did on that trip.
How was the trail conditions for your entire tour?
Great.
It was pretty money.
We lucked out.
Yeah.
Bentonville event, I showed up just as the event was ending and just as it started pouring down rain.
Yeah. And we actually, I totally forgot about this, that we moved the day of the event. The event was supposed to happen on Friday, and they had just insane flooding happen the week prior to us getting there. And it was like, goodness, like, I don't know if this event's going to happen at all. And the folks that we were working with, the local land management folks and, Bike Bentonville, all those people, super helpful getting us moved to different sites and different dates and just making that whole process pretty easy. And then I think almost everybody was able to ride on Sunday rather than Friday.
Okay.
And we honestly, we probably could have ridden on Friday. We went out and rode the trails that we were supposed to ride for the event on the day, and they were fine. But it's just one of those things, like we're hosting a public event, so to speak. We want to be practicing good trail stewardship. If there's ever a question on whether or not we're going to do something detrimental to the trails, for us, it's kind of a no-brainer that it's just, if we can say no and reschedule to a better day that is better for the trails. And, and as you said, like when trail conditions are good, right, you get better weather, better trail conditions, everyone just has a better time. So we opted to not risk that and make sure that, Sunday looked a lot better weather-wise and trail condition-wise, and it definitely worked out just fine.
Well, you guys are no stranger to Pisgah. What have been your previous events that you've had here?
We do this event called Rome Fest.
This little event.
I mean, it's huge for us. We're huge in Rome Fest. And 2018 was the first year that we put on our East Coast event, which was in Brevard at Rebranch.
Tell them what it is.
It is a 300 lady shred fest, 3-day festival. There's group rides and tech talks, all kinds of clinics all throughout the day. Not skills clinics, but any other kind of clinic, bike related that you can think of, saddle clinics, etc.
Bike packing, wheels,
literally anything.
So many things
you can think of. And we have we call it a Shred Talks panel on one night where we have some really awesome ladies from the industry come and talk to everybody and tell their stories. And
the film
a movie
fest.
night, film festival. The No Man's Land Film Festival is generally who we have worked with in the past. It's they're awesome. That's always an awesome night. We have a taco night. And then a freaking dance party. It's literally a bike party.
Famous dance party. Yeah, and then of course all of our vendors, we get a pretty awesome showing that we're pretty picky about who we bring to the festival, and we're really lucky that I think because of the demographic that we serve at that event, we have the flexibility to be a little bit, like we've set a pretty high bar to who we bring into that event. It's really important to us that the brands that are represented there, support women in cycling, and not just on the day, but all year long. So we've got tons of demos and tons of other bike, vendors in terms of apparel,
clothing, apparel and soft goods and hard goods.
And what's really cool, and I like to talk about this because it blows my mind, but for the brands that come in and do, say, like saddle demos, wheel demos, Shredly comes and sells apparel. They do more demos and bigger sales at our 300-person little baby mountain bike festival than they do at the Sedona Mountain Bike Festival, that they do at Sea Otter. I mean, like the numbers are kind of mind-blowing, which really
you guys bring it.
I know. And I think
the ladies bring it.
I think the authenticity of us just saying like, hey, like we wouldn't have these brands here if we didn't totally support what they're doing and think that their products are awesome and their companies are awesome and that they're doing things right. And I think that vote of confidence from us as like the event, producers goes a long way. And because it is a little bit more like summer camp, that genuine, like those genuine touch points, just rather than being like the cattle being prodded down the row of vendors at those, thousands of people, the events with thousands of folks. I think that there's something to be said for the quality of the interactions that we get at our event, that you have enough time, to chat with people and make those connections. yeah, and I mean, we do 90 group rides, and it is just it's a nightmare to plan, but it is so much fun once it happens.
Yeah, I've hung out with you guys pre and post event, so I've seen like your stress levels rise, and then like the post like let loose of oh, we can finally like relax now.
Hitting the wall.
Yeah.
But usually it's just you guys sitting around in your pajamas like sipping tea and stuff the next morning.
Yeah.
There is a
love that
hard
part.
decompression that has to happen after those events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause they're
You're just so high for 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the come down.
So obviously 2020 had a huge effect on pretty much everyone, and you guys were in a weird position because your business and your events are based off group gatherings, which were a hard no. And now as things are opening back up, it seems like people are really psyched to get back out there and have fun with their friends.
Yeah, I mean, it's the outpouring of emails, new subscribers, folks just touching base with us, our social media channels. It is very apparent that tens of thousands of people started mountain biking last year. And also that, the crew and the community that was already established is really excited to get back out there and get after it. I think it's kind of one of those things that you don't know what a good thing you have until you don't have it anymore. And I think across the board, events, interactions, all the things that all of us weren't able to do for a year, I think we've all developed a new appreciation for the ability to go do those things. And so we're really honestly grateful. I mean, as horrible as the reason behind the break and the time off was, we're really grateful for it. We were pushing things pretty hard and pretty burnt out when 2020 rolled around.
And we were fixing to have like a really intense,
we were going to have
really awesome 2020.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was going to just be like just as intense as.
Yeah. And as small business owners, I'm preaching to the choir to anybody, yourself included, who works in that small business environment. It is full on all the time. And it was really great to take the year off. And what we feel, incredibly lucky about is the fact that people are just chomping at the bit to get into events. I mean, I think the fact that we launched an event series and sold out within 12 hours that does not normally, we always have sold out our events, but never in that kind of time frame. So it's incredibly exciting. It's really important for us to take a breath and be really, really intentional about what we are doing, in Rome version 2.0, basically, which is what we're in right now, and making sure that, we're still having that work-life balance and able to put on the quality of events that, that is up to our standards. But we're incredibly thrilled. We cannot wait for the bike parties that are going to be happening here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys have kind of reevaluated what you're doing with Rome. How do you think your quality of work-life balance has been after doing this 5-day tour thing?
Yeah, 2020 really gave us a chance to think about what's important to us and what realistically we can do with the time that we have and with the amount of energy that we have. And it gave us a chance to really fill up our cups and come back into 2021 with a really clearer picture of how we can make this happen for as long as we want to make it happen, which is forever. But
avoiding burnout.
Yeah, we're probably just the nature of our new events is a little bit less work. So we're really able to make the event itself a higher quality because we can focus more time on each individual day if you break it down by day. And
I think the fact that we're partnering with bike shops on this tour is really helpful. It's just more kind of cooks in the kitchen in a good way.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, we've always based out of whatever lodging that we're staying at. On this event tour, there's definitely a more focused partnership on the ground with those local bike shops. And I don't know why we haven't always, we've always been in cahoots with the local bike shops in the areas that we go to and host events, but having that more intentional
concerted effort,
concerted partnership has made things a lot easier.
I mean, at the very core of Rome, our what we want to do is build community, and the bike shops, the local bike shops, are a huge part of that.
Yeah.
And Andy, you coming from being a wrench at a local bike shop, you see a little more of the appreciation of that. And then Ash, you coming from the demo world and stuff like that, I think it's a good combination between you two to kind of interact and connect with the local shops a little bit more, and that always helps with your resources of boots on the ground.
Totally. Yeah. And I think for women especially, like I don't want to make gross generalizations, but after interacting with thousands and thousands of women, we can say with some confidence that a lot of women are intimidated to go into bike shops. So I think, it has that trickle effect of, we do these events with 10, 15 ladies. We partner with the bike shop. We kind of break down that barrier of entry into like physically getting women into a bike shop. And they see how awesome and nice everybody is. And luckily, I think bike shops are in a position that they're doing well enough with sales that they can have the staff on hand that they need to really make sure that their customer service and just general like stoke and friendliness when you walk in is on their A game these days. I mean, we definitely noticed a difference in 2021 than 2019 walking into shops, and you can see that they're all super tired because it's just been an absolutely bananas last 15, 16 months for all those bike shops. But at the same time, I think that boost and boom that's happening has really put bike shops in a position that they can get the staff in to, do all the things that they just simply didn't have the resources to do before. And we've definitely noticed it. And I think that because there's so many new folks coming in, it really has helped with those intimidation factors that were intimidating for women. I think that they kind of hold true for just most new people coming into shops. And I just have to applaud every shop we walked into. We were so impressed with just the interactions that we had. And and it's made a huge difference going to one-day events, working with those locals, working with the local bike shop. And it's something that we definitely want to continue doing because it's so effective. And it's the work-life balance for us is pretty awesome with it. Not to say we're not doing retreats. I think we're going to continue to do retreats in the future. I just think they might move to a different format, something that's maybe more private, like a group of friends booking a private event with us as opposed to having a 3-day event that it's like, come on, come all, and not being able to kind of curate the experience for that specific group coming in. That's something we kind of want to shift over to, getting that super high touch, highly curated event for those 3-day overnights, because they are so much work. Making sure that it's really worth it, not only for the attendees and the guests coming, but for us as well.
And I think one thing to touch back on some of the bike shop stuff, a couple of the locations you had your events in for this past tour have been places in regions where you've had, a retreat of sorts. Mm-hmm. So I think they understood like the level of stoke that you bring. So that probably also influenced them to kind of step it up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would hope so. Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, they definitely already knew who we were when we called them to tell them we were coming. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
I think part of that too is just relationship building, right? I mean, I have to give kudos to like
community.
The partnerships that we've had we've had basically the same core group of partners supporting our events for 5 or 6 years now, with Specialized SRAM, Industry 9, Sierra Nevada, all those guys. And they really got us through the year off in a number of ways. Something as simple as Clint Spiegel with I-9 calling us to just see how we're doing multiple times throughout the year. I mean, that just is,
we're like, aren't you busy?
Yeah.
Why are you calling us?
And so, I mean, we've got relationships going like that. And I think, we've been around, this is year 6. I have lost track of the years. 5. I think that's a good thing. I don't know.
5.
Year 5 or 6. And I think, we go back to the same places because we've really worked hard to develop those relationships. And at this point, like, those folks are like our friends. Like, we walk into bike shops and, we see Wes at Sycamore Cycles or Hannah, and it's just like, it's awesome to see those familiar faces and check in on them. And often we don't see them. We see them once a year. So it's like a little reunion everywhere we go. It's pretty rad.
It definitely felt like coming home. You know, we have a lot of like quote unquote homes all over the country.
For the record, we didn't live anywhere for a really long time.
Yeah.
And we would spend weeks or a month in places where we'd be putting on our events. So they started to feel like home, and definitely
Brevard
coming
is,
back to Brevard this
for
year
sure.
felt like coming home.
Yeah. It's a pretty special place.
It is. And, you know, you guys have spent a lot of time here, and we welcome you. We consider you extended family.
Oh, thank
thanks.
you.
2020 also brought a lot of social change and social awareness for different groups of people. How have you noticed that affecting people's interest in what you guys are doing?
So I would like to think that we've kind of always been making a effort in the way that we communicate to potential participants, the way that, I mean, I literally build the website, and we're really intentional about the language that we use. And I would like to think that we have always been a fairly inclusive space. I think like every other, I'll just say like white person in America in 2020, I hope that we had our eyes opened a bit more to the, you know, just the lack of equity in outdoors, and the fact that it's not just gonna, you know, we can't have these inclusive spaces just by saying, hey, like this is an inclusive space. Like the work is not that easy. So something that we've been doing, we put together a 20% pledge. So this year we're doing BIPOC, which is Black, Indigenous, People of Color pledge. So we're saving and reserving 20% of registration at all of our events for folks who kind of identify in those categories. And it's one of those things that I'm like, this is kind of putting a Band-Aid on the problem. And we talked about it, and we talked about it with our friends of color, and just being very honest that like it's kind of an uncomfortable thing to be like, yeah, we're gonna like do this 20% pledge and feel really good about ourselves. But at the same time, you know, equity starts with access. And I think for somebody to feel like they have access to something, companies and groups and organizations and communities just need to be really clear that you are welcome here. And I think we did a great job in the past letting, you know, the LGBTQ population know you are welcome here, because we are in that.
We fit into that
we
category.
fit into that. We're the L in that. And so I think just also by default of folks feeling welcome because they saw a reflection of themselves in us. They felt welcome at our events. And so with that pledge, we have seen an uptick in ladies coming to the events. I don't know if that's just generally because more folks are getting into the outdoors or just feeling welcome, or if it's because we're being more intentional about our messaging. But it's something that we love. We would love to see more of. And we've recently hired a woman, Alyssa Gonzalez, to just help us with our messaging and making sure that we're doing things the right way, because we know we're doing them for the right reason. But I mean, we're pretty privileged white women who grew up middle class. So it's a tough thing to navigate, and we just want to make sure that we're doing it with the most, you know, grace and humility and authenticity that we can. And
I think what's important is that you are trying.
Yeah, and we are trying and trying to do it in a genuine way, like we always have. I mean, that's just kind of always been our MO, and it's been pretty amazing in just a really short period of time to see that shift happen. And we're just really looking forward to the day that like that doesn't necessarily need to be part of the conversation, right? Because it's just the representation is there. Yeah. Which I think we have a long way to go.
It probably won't be in our lifetime.
Yeah, it might not be in our lifetime, but the fact that the conversations are happening and the efforts being made, I think is a good step, for better or for worse.
That's applaud you guys for making that.
Oh, thanks.
Going forward with your new Rome event version, or your new Rome 2.0, you've got a list of dates. You're hitting the Pacific Northwest, and you're also doing the Sturdy Dirty Enduro again?
Ooh. Andy is. So we made a mistake. The Sturdy Bitch Racing is a group of amazing, amazing women who do so much for the mountain bike community in the Pacific Northwest and the Seattle area. And we've partnered with them the last couple of years to just really have us come and help put on the Sturdy Dirty Enduro, which is an all women's enduro race that's been happening for, I think they're in like year 7.
I think it was 2013.
A long time.
2013 or 2014.
Basically,
a while.
boss ass pioneers. And they called us because they needed to reschedule. We told them the weekend that we had open that would be awesome. They rescheduled it for that weekend. I will take full ownership. I forgot. We scheduled our own festival. We were launching a new Rome Fest location here in Fruta, October 8th through 10th, which coincidentally is the same weekend as the Sturdy Dirty Enduro. So Andy is one of 2 people who has never missed a Sturdy Dirty, and she will continue to never miss a Sturdy Dirty. So we are actually just hiring an assistant director at the festival, and Andy's going to bust her little tushy off to make sure that we get as much done as we can with her expertise and her here helping. And then we're going to pop her over onto a flight, get her ass to Seattle so she can race and party.
I think I'll be gone for 24 hours.
Yeah. And then
if everything goes as planned.
Yeah. So the Sturdy Dirty is still happening this year. Our involvement is more just Andy's going to show up and be part of the party as a racer, I think, and help obviously as much as you can.
Oh, yeah.
And then next year I will not be as dumb and make sure that we don't double book. I won't mess up dates. And
lesson learned.
Yeah, lesson learned. Put things down on the calendar, and actually look at the calendar when you're scheduling events. Turns out, step 2, look at the calendar. But amazing event. Those ladies
so good.
I have to give them kudos. They've really expanded into trail work and trail advocacy. And
it's not just a race. It's a whole year's worth of community building, mountain bike
clinics. They do like get ready to race things with Angie Weston and Jill Kittner. And they just have a whole community of support because they've just been absolutely crushing that event for years. And it's amazing to me that more people don't know about it because it's just the level of awesome. I mean, it's a 10 out of 10, maybe 11.
I think it
an
turns
11.
up to 11 for that weekend.
Yeah, it's a fun event.
So when can we expect to see you guys back on the Pisgah side of the map?
Yeah, so we talk about the pilgrimage. We call it the pilgrimage. I don't know if people know that, but whenever we go out back to Brevard, we call it doing our pilgrimage out to Brevard. We really like it out in there in the spring, as much as that's playing roulette with the weather. Our fall just in general is very, very busy because it's nice riding just about everywhere you go.
Yeah, it's always hard to choose like fall is good everywhere. Yes. Where should I go?
Yeah, and unfortunately spring is not good everywhere. So I think we're going to be doing our pilgrimage back there in the spring. Definitely plan on bringing the Rome Rally demo tour back. Looking into what other events we can do because we just really want to maximize, what we can do when we're back in Pisgah. But I mean, I would say May. I think next year the talk is actually doing a real proper East Coast tour. So sticking around possibly into June, going up to Vermont, hitting a bunch of rides along the way, doing something like that. So I would say, spring 2022. Brevard is in the books.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to seeing you.
Yeah,
thanks.
it's
Same.
Favorite place ever to go ride. So we can't wait to get back.
So where's the best place people can keep up with what you guys are doing, like social media wise?
Probably on Instagram at This Is Rome, and then Facebook as well. Rome
Everything
Events is a page.
we got smart, and everything is just This Is Rome.
Yeah,
and it's ROAM, like roaming around.
THIS.
So if you want to get a hold of us, I'm Ash at thisisrome.com.
Andy at thisisrome.com.
Andy with an
Andy
I.
with an
Andy
I.
with an I. Thank you. I forgot that.
Yeah,
it was with an I.
Yeah, and we don't post a whole heck of a lot because we choose to spend our time not on our computer screens, but. Typically, if we have any sort of updates or stoke or exciting news, we'll put it on Instagram, share it to Facebook, and then eventually it makes its way onto the website if it's important enough. But yeah, I think following us on Instagram is probably the best way to go. You can also subscribe to us. We send newsletters out about once a quarter to just keep everybody updated on what's going on. Yeah, come party. I think the best way to keep up with us is come party with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, come to an event.
Come in person. You can only get a shirt if you come to the event. So.
Yeah. And our rally tour, demo tour is sold out. We're going to be releasing new dates here in a couple weeks. Probably late June, early July, we'll be releasing our fall rally tour dates. We do have dates for our Rome Fest, which are those 300-person multi-day women's festivals. So those are going to be October 8th through 10th in Fruita, Colorado, and November 5th through 7th in Sedona, Arizona. Which we are Sedona is for Send Descendertons. And we're being very, very clear about the level of riding, and Sedona is quite technical, and we are encouraging ladies who feel really confident and ready to go shred to come join us in Sedona. And if they're ready to just kind of develop some skills and have a more chill ride style, come play with us in Fruita. And that's kind of how we're throwing those two parties.
Some for everyone.
A little something for everybody.
That's a good way to put it, because in Sedona, like, how long is the trail at the back door? So
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's
Double black.
a little challenging in Sedona, and we want to set people up for success, making sure they're having a good time always.
awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for the time. I know you guys are trying to get a little happy hour in GJ out there.
Absolutely. We are. It's Friday.
Yeah.
But thank you for having us. It's been awesome catching up, and yeah, I can't wait for our next interview in about a year or two.
Awesome.
Thanks, Mangler.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really neat model to come back with the rally model of things and partner with a local bike shop and just to do a quick here and there event and not have to necessarily take up a whole weekend of people's events. And I think maybe that even paves the way for them to get some more participants for their core events that are the longer weekend version.
Yeah, I mean, it's a solid setup. Their big events, are a huge 3-day ordeal. For some people, it's a little bit much for them to do. But yeah, the single day thing, it allows you to link up with, a new shop, get some resources, meet some new people, pluses for everyone all around.
I can get down with that. On that note, how about the local weather? Have you got any foresight into what we are going to look at for the coming week?
Well, we are getting into that time of the year where it's pretty much going to say scattered thunderstorms every single day. So there is a slight percentage that no matter where you're at in Western North Carolina, you have a chance of rain. Now, there are other places where you won't have a chance of rain, but where it happens, you never know.
We could use it too. We've had a few scattered showers here and there and some that have lasted a little bit overnight, but the dirt out in front of my house is dry, so I can only imagine what some of the trails look like right now.
Yeah, so today, I mentioned rode Avery Club to go down Avery Trail, and the Club Gap side of the mountain was super dry, and the Avery side of the mountain wasn't like wet, but it had some moisture in it, so it was pretty good dirt for, compared to what we were expected to get into.
Nice.
Well, guys, that is a wrap on this week's episode. And as always, you can find us on social media. Just search Pisgah Podcast. And also, don't forget, we've got shirts for sale with $5 going to Pisgah area Sorba. Just hit up pisgahpodcast.bigcartel.com.
And if you ever plan to go to an event for a 3-day weekend, but you only have one day to do it and happen to be at your local bike shop, then go ahead and click subscribe, share with your friends, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
You could just call in sick on that other day and make it a 4-day weekend.
I work for a big corporation, man. I can't have 100%.
But